Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stamp Set Sunday. This is Brenda Labataglia with Memes Artful Inspirations. This week's episode is featuring a stamp set Jar of Love, and it can be found on page 75 of the 2016-2017 Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. There is a lot of images in this stamp set, which lends itself to a ton of project ideas, cards, tags. We are going to show you how to make a Luminaria. Lots of fun things. You might find it easy with this stamp set to also get the everyday jars framelit dies. They cut out nearly every single image on the stamp set. And we're going to show you how to use a number of these on here. I think we used the jars, the window die cut out, the stem leaves, the flowers, the bow. Lots of images that we're going to show you how to use with these 5 projects. Let me give you a sneak peek of what the projects look like. So one of the projects we made is this little tag. This little tag. I'm going to cover this up so it doesn't glare on you. Just a little tag. Stampin' Up! Sells these cellophane bags, and I filled them with, I like toffee, so these are just the Hershey nuggets. Fits perfectly, but you could fill, use your favorite treat or treat that you might want to gift to a friend or a family member. So that's one of the projects we're going to show you how to make today. Another project is using one of the designer series papers, and we'll tell you what those are in a little bit, but we fussy cut some of the fish. We die cut the jar to make a shaker card. So real cute. Some of the designer series paper, different color cardstock. I'm going to show you this one. Designer series paper stack and the doily. Using vellum paper as well, the vellum cardstock, and die cutting, 2-step stamping, die cutting the images for this card. I like this card. I favor a beach theme, kind of distressed. I really like this card. And then another is a double Z fold. So you'll see that the card is a Z fold, and then the outer band is also a Z fold. And so we use some designer series, rather Pink Pirouette and Whisper White. We used some of the images to stamp background. We used the die cuts and 2-step stamping, an oval punch, and we're going to show you how to do that. And last, we made a Luminaria, and you'll see in the video what that looks like in the dark with a tea light candle inside. I was thinking that some of our American Cancer Society Relay for Life walks are coming up soon, and so I was thinking about all of us who have lost family members to cancer, and even those who have family members, or even yourself, who may be fighting a battle with cancer. And so October's coming up, and at my place of employment, we are planning what's called a Hope Hike in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October. And while I know it's still the end of August, we are preparing for those walks. So I was thinking about that and our Relay for Life walks that are across our nation, and how we use luminarias to honor those who we've lost or who are fighting the battle. And so this luminaria is in honor of that. All right, so we're going to get started to show you how to make all of these wonderful projects. I'll be right back with you in just a moment. All right, the first card is using Bermuda Bay cardstock and a sheet from the Serene Scenery Designer Series paper stack. Lots of gorgeous images in this paper stack, and the size of paper is 6 by 6. We cut the fence image down to 5 by 5, and the cardstock is 5 by 10 scored at 5 to make a 5 by 5 card base. Using the black Memento, black Tuxedo ink, you're going to stamp the medium-sized jar image to a sheet of the vellum cardstock and set that aside to dry. You want that completely dry before you move on. Alright, using Wild Wasabi, Pink Pirouette, and Brushing Bride, you're going to stamp the images that we're going to use as the flowers. And we're going to use all of the corresponding dies to cut these out. And what you won't see is my putting this card together. It did not capture. I zigged when I should have zagged. I turned the video off when I should have been turning it on, so I apologize. But you'll see here in a minute how it all gets put together. And you can visit my blog, Memes, Artful Inspirations, for the PDF of the instructions. Here we're two-step stamping the flowers using Pink Pirouette and Blushing Bride. Two-step stamping. I like to start with the lighter color first, stamp the lighter color, and then using the smaller images in the two-step stamp process and stamp the darker colors. I used the Pink Pirouette and Blushing Bride, but you certainly could use any number of colors to create the flowers. And there you are. Everything's all die cut using the everyday jars. On the back of the vellum image where we've stamped the jar, using a Stampin' sponge, apply ink. Here we're using the Bermuda Bay. And now it just looks like you've got a jar full of water. You're going to adhere the flowers to the back of the jar that you've die cut so that it looks like you have a vase of flowers. This you'll apply to the card as well using snail adhesive on top of the lace doily. You could see there in that top image. Stamp your sentiment, punch it out with an oval punch, and I inked the edges using Sahara sand, and then using Stampin' Dimensionals applied that to the card. Alright, so the second project is a small tag. Using Calypso Coral cardstock, you're going to stamp using Calypso Coral ink the large jar image and die cut that out. Using slate gray ink and slate gray paper, die cut the lid. Using the same technique, the two-step stamping process, you're going to be stamping a few of the smaller flowers. And again, I used the Pink Pirouette and Blushing Bride colors. And I also, using Wild Wasabi, stamped a couple of the smaller leaf branches onto Whisper White cardstock and die cut those out as well. We'll see here in a minute. Once you've die cut those out, you'll want to stamp your sentiments. I used Spread the Love using chocolate chip ink, and then using snail adhesive, just apply your embellishments to the jar. using the 2" by 8" cellophane bag, you'll fill that with your favorite treat or the treat loved by the recipient. And you will attach the tag, the jar tag, to the cellophane bag using your favorite twine, ribbon. I didn't have any of that here where I do my video and make the cards for the video, and so I just had some thread in my sewing kit, and I used that to attach the tag to the cellophane bag. Super cute, easy to make, and the person who will receive it will love it. That's project number 2. All right, project 3, you're going to fussy cut 5 fish from the By the Shore Designer Series paper. The fish are on the back side of the Designer Series paper that looks like the waves there that we're using on this project. You're going to use the large jar die cut, and that smaller is the what I'm referring to as the shaker window die cut. You will die cut that out and using the Memento Black Tuxedo ink stamp the jar image. Cut a corresponding window sheet. You want it the same size as the paper part of the die cut there. Make sure when you're applying the snail adhesive that there's no gap in the adhesive. Using the foam adhesive strips, again, making sure to not leave any gaps. Apply that foam adhesive all along the edge of the shaker piece. Again, be sure not to leave any gaps so you don't want your sequin to fall out. Apply the Designer Series paper to the cardstock, which is 5½ by 4¼ The matte size is 5¼ by 4. I applied one of the fish to the inside of the shaker card using a Stampin' Dimensional. No, I'm sorry, I used snail adhesive. I didn't want him popped up. But I applied all of the other fish using Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh, I did use Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh gosh, I'm really confused this morning. I'm so sorry. So got everything laid out the way that I wanted. I attached the fish. And then you'll see here in a minute I had some leftover sequin that I added to the shaker image. And you won't see it, but I kind of flipped the card up in the air and attached it, attached the window so I wouldn't have sequin flying all over the place. And see, it's off screen there, but I just kind of held it up. And if you have fish tanks or if you watch fish at all, they blow bubbles, so I use some of the smaller sequins and using the fine tip glue pen, I attach smaller sequin. Here I'm stamping the lid on vanilla, very vanilla, using Calypso Coral ink. I attach that using snail adhesive. The sentiment is Best Fishies, kind of like best friends, and I cut that out using the fish die cut included in the die cut kit. You'll see that in a minute. I'm applying some Wink of Stella just to add a little glitter to the fish. They shimmer in the water. That's what led me to using the Wink of Stella glitter. We are applying the air bubbles using sequin that I had from a kit, a Stampin' Up kit. trying to show you that it is fairly easy to put the lid back on the fine tip glue pen. I'm looking for the sentiment that I want to use, which is, again, best fishies. I think you could give this card to your best girlfriend, or you could, if you've got a teenage daughter that wanted to give a card to her best friend, I think this would be a super cute idea. Pardon me. See how cute? I popped him up with some Stampin' Dimensionals. And there you have our third project. All right, our fourth project today is a double Z fold card. I started out by stamping several of the images that I want to use on the embellishment portion of this card. And here you can see I am again two-step stamping. There's a lot of opportunity in this stamp set to do this technique. And here I am using Pink Pirouette and Melon Mambo. I used the Melon Mambo for the bow as well. And you see to the left there that I have pre-stamped the medium jar size. And in the stamp set is what I would describe as the water image for the insides of the jars. And I used Pool Party Stampin' Ink for the inside of that. I have die cut all of the flowers and the Wild Wasabi cardstock paper. I cut out a couple of the leaf images. Here you see that I'm stamping the water. I missed capturing that on video for you, so I wanted you to see it. And then using Wild Wasabi, there is a plain stem image in the stamp set. And I stamped the floral stems, and you're going to see how all this comes together here in a minute. So all of those things get die cut using the Everyday Jars die cuts that go along with that. So the card base starts out being 5.5 by 11, and you will score that at 2 3/4 and at 5.5. The card base color is Melon Mambo. You're also going to need Melon Mambo cut at 1.5 by 11, and you'll score that at 5 and 11 and at 2 3/4. You will need, in Pink Pirouette, 2 5 1/4 by 2.5 strips, a 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 sheet, and a 1 1/4 by 5 1/4 strip, and a 1 1/4 by 2.5 strip. The Whisper White cardstock, you'll need 2 5 1/4 by 2, and you'll emboss those using the Fluttering embossing folder. You'll need 5 1/4 by 5, and also emboss that with the Fluttering embossing folder. You will need a 1 by 5 and a 1.5 by 2 1/4 sheet of Whisper White, and you're going to stamp both of those pieces using Wild Wasabi with one of the leaf images from the stamp set. Apply the Pink Pirouette and the Whisper White sections to the Melon Mambo using your snail adhesive. Here we are applying the band, the Z fold band, to the Z fold card base. This is your 1.5 by 11 band of Melon Mambo. And you can see that I'm just lining everything up and applying snail adhesive to both the right and the left edges. And here's where you're going to apply your pink pirouettes. Using your snail adhesive. Real easy. There's a lot of steps to this card, but it really is not complicated. Each of those sections on the black mat that I use is 1-inch sections. The bold lines are 1-inch sections, so I'm just showing you the sizes of the card, which I've already given you, but you can head on over to Memes Artful Inspirations where the PDF is located, and you will get all of the measurements there. It's very difficult to take all of these measurements down in a video, so I have provided you a PDF of all the instructions for all 5 of these projects. So we are applying the Whisper White that we have pre-stamped with a background. In the stamp set, there is the leaf, I guess it could look like a tree image, using the wild wasabi. We are applying just using snail adhesive. Pretty much everything is flat on here because the card has dimension to it because it's seafold. Alright, so you see here, you're going to carefully apply the snail adhesive to, now I applied it to the card, but in hindsight you're going to very carefully apply it to the lower sections of those stems, the leaf stems. And again, using snail adhesive, applying the 2 of the floral images there. And the 3rd, here we're attaching the bow. See, everything's using snail adhesive. And attach that there. And just detacking the snail adhesive that is visible to the back so that it doesn't stick to the Whisper White section. I'm trying to line it up so that it is even, which doesn't end up happening, but it's okay. It's centered there on that right side of the card and kind of off-centered to the center. I use a little wink of Stella. Just add a little glimmer to the card. On the left side of the card is where I put the sentiment, and we 2-step stamps 2 of the smaller flowers from the stamp set using the pink pirouette and the blushing bride, and we also stamped the sentiment using melon mambo. We cut the melon mambo, or I'm sorry, the sentiment out using the one of the oval punches. I believe it's the 2-inch punch there. Nope, it's the 1 3/4-inch punch. I apply the sentiment using Stampin' Dimensionals and the smaller flowers just to frame it using the Stampin' Dimensionals as well. There you have card 4. Alright, so our last project today is a Luminaria. And you're going to want to use a vase or a glass that is perfectly cylindrical from the top to the bottom. It will make putting this project together much easier. The measurements that I am using is according to that cup that I have. It was a gift from my daughter from her baby shower. So the size of mine is 6 inches tall, cut to 10.5 inches wide. I die cut using the large jar image. I applied the tear and tape to one of the edges and cut a sheet of vellum cardstock that will cover the 3 images that I have die cut from the designer series paper. That is called Pop of Pink. And here you see that I am stamping using Memento Black Tuxedo ink to the back of the vellum paper, vellum cardstock. In hindsight, I would recommend stamping the images to the front of the image, or to the front of the cardstock. It's smeared a little bit, and that is due in part to the fact that I didn't completely let it dry before I started wrapping the paper to my template. And it just smudged a little bit. It's not terrible. Get it nice and tightly wrapped and adhere both of the edges. You're going to cut 2 strips from Melon Mambo. They're going to be 1 inch by 10.5, and you're going to apply tear and tape to the edges of both of those. Those are going to be adhered to the bottom edge and top edge of your Luminaria. You're also going to want to cut 2 strips of the organza ribbon. And of course for mine, they are 1 inch by 10.5 inch, and you'll adjust all of these sizes according to the glass template that you use. Just wrapping the Melon Mambo strip along the bottom here, getting a nice tight image. And here I'm trying to decide whether I want to cut that off, and I decide not to. Having the strips along the bottom of the cardstock is going to make your Luminaria just a little bit more sturdy. You certainly can just apply ribbon or some twine or anything like that to the bottoms of your cardstock. I just wanted it a little bit more sturdy, and that's why I applied the additional cardstock to the top and the bottom. This organza ribbon has the center that makes it quite nice just to add your tear and tape there to be able to apply it to your Melon Mambo strips, to both the top and the bottom of your Luminaria. Once this is done, you'll be able to remove your vase or glass template. The organza ribbon is 5/8 inches wide. And there again, I'm just showing you how long it is based on my template, the glass that I used to help me put the Luminaria together. Now, for the purposes of an evening where the Luminaria is lit up, you can call this done. But sometimes during walks, your Luminarias are set out in the daytime, and so I just wanted to add a little bit more, just to add a little bit more pretty to it, and so I just punched out 3/4 inch dots. There I'm using the pop of pink, the white with the pink with the white polka dots. It's Melon Mambo, the color, and then in that pop of pink designer series paper is the gold polka dot. So I'm just applying some of that here. So during the day, the Luminaria still is quite pretty. During Relay for Life walks, the Luminarias are there to honor those who are battling cancer, those who have survived cancer, and those we've lost to cancer. And so you could, though I don't do it here in this template, you could write the person's name and cut that out and adhere that to this Luminaria. And you can make several of these if you've got several family and or friends, loved ones that are battling survived or who we have lost to cancer. Here's an image of it lit up. Now I have used a flame candle in here because I didn't have a battery operated one, but you will want to use a battery operated one since this is paper. If you'd like to see more of these Stamp Set Sunday tutorials, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate that so much. Also, if you'll join me over on the blog, Memes, Artful Inspirations, there you'll find full PDF tutorials of all of the Stamp Set Sunday video tutorials. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.